Hebrew folktale. One day, King Solomon's servant came breathlessly into the court. "Please let me borrow your fastest horse," he said to the king. "I must be in a town 10 miles south of here by nightfall." King was perplexed what the reason was. "Why?" asked King Solomon. "Because," said his shuddering servant, "I just met Death in the garden. Death looked at me in the face. I know for certain I am to be taken, and I don't want to be around when Death comes to claim me. I want to go away from Death." "Very well," said King Solomon. "My fastest horse has hooves like wings. Take him." Then Solomon walked into the garden. He saw Death sitting there with a perplexed look on its face. "What's wrong?" asked King Solomon. Death replied, "Tonight I'm supposed to claim the life of your servant, whom I just saw in your garden. But I'm supposed to claim him in a town 10 miles south of here. Unless he had a horse with hooves like wings, I don't see how he could get there by nightfall." New shoes. China. There lived a man in a small village in China. He was an eccentric man. His old shoes were worn out, so he decided to buy a new pair of shoes. Before he went to the marketplace, he drew a detailed picture of his feet on a piece of paper, carefully measured them, and wrote down all their dimensions. Then he set off on foot for the shoe store. Arriving later that day at the marketplace, he unhappily discovered that he had forgotten to bring the paper with his measurements on it. He turned around and walked back home to get it. It was sunset by the time he returned again to the market, and all the shops were closed. He saw only one shopkeeper who was about to close his shop too. He explained his situation to the shopkeeper, who had already packed away all his wares. "Foolish man," said the shopkeeper, "you could have trusted your feet and tried the shoes on in the store. Why did you go home to get your diagrams?" The man blushed. "I guess I trusted my measurements more." The Golden Touch. Greece. Once there was a king named Midas who did a good deed for a satyr and was granted a wish by the god of wine, Dionysus. For his wish, Midas asked that whatever he touched would turn to gold. All the Dionysus tried to dissuade him, yet Midas insisted that the wish was an excellent one, and it was granted. Excitedly, Midas went about touching all sorts of things, turning them into gold. Soon Midas became hungry. He held a morsel of food in his hand, but couldn't eat it, for it had turned to gold in his hand. "I'll starve," moaned Midas. Perhaps this was not such a good wish after all, he thought, and remained hungry. Midas's beloved daughter, seeing his dismay, threw her arms about him to comfort him, and she too turned to gold. "The golden touch is no blessing," cried Midas. He went to the river and wept. The sand of that river turned as yellow as fool's gold, for it was there. They say that King Midas washed away the curse of the golden touch with his own tears. The Skull. West Africa. One day in a forest in Africa, a hunter came upon a huge tree with a whitened skull at its base. The skull spoke. "Beyond a certain hill is a field of calabashes. Take them to your hungry village, but do not tell anyone how you obtained them." "How did you come to be here?" asked the hunter. "My mouth killed me," said the skull. The hunter returned to the village with the calabashes, but could not keep the secret and immediately told everyone. "A talking skull showed me a field of food." The chief called him a liar. The hunter told, "Then come with me. I'll prove what I say is true." When they arrived at the tree, the hunter spoke to the skull, but it remained silent. The villagers became very angry, and they started beating the hunter. The hunter was put to death on the spot for lying. In time, 2 whitened skulls sat beneath the tree. The first turned to the second and said, "See, in death we meet again, my kin. It's true, a mouth can do you in."
Thanks for watching. Do like, share, subscribe to Sahil Book House.